The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Council was abuzz with hushed, anxious murmurs as the representatives from the galaxy's most technologically advanced civilizations convened for an emergency meeting. An unsettling air of unease hung over the proceedings, a stark contrast to the typically composed and methodical demeanor of the august body. Tyloth, the Venusian representative and the current presiding officer, rose from his seat and raised a three-fingered hand to call the chamber to order. The chatter gradually subsided as all eyes turned to the imposing figure at the central podium. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, Tyloth began, his voice tinged with a rare edge of concern. We face a matter of the utmost importance and gravity. Recent reports from our outposts have brought to light the existence of a previously unknown alien species, one that poses a potential threat to the delicate balance of power in our galaxy. He paused, allowing the weight of his words to sink in before continuing. This species, dubbed humans, hails from a remote world called Earth, situated in an unremarkable corner of the Milky Way. Yet the accounts we have received describe them in most unsettling terms. Tyloth activated a large holographic display, which flickered to life, revealing fragments of intelligence gathered by the Council's operatives. Grainy footage showed human warriors engaged in fierce combat, their movements agile and their weapons primitive yet effective. Other images depicted scenes of human technology, still rudimentary compared to the Council's own, but exhibiting a remarkable ingenuity. As you can see, Tyloth said, gesturing towards the display, these humans possess attributes that, while not inherently advanced, are nonetheless cause for great concern. Their resilience, adaptability, and tactical prowess in the art of warfare are well documented. Indeed, they seem to excel at the very skills that have defined the most dominant civilizations in our galaxy. A murmur of unease rippled through the chamber, and several representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Galactic Council prided itself on its technological supremacy, which had allowed it to maintain a delicate peace and stability throughout the galaxy for centuries. The prospect of a new player, one seemingly capable of challenging this order, was deeply unsettling. Tyloth raised a hand, silencing the whispers. I understand your trepidation, my fellow counselors. The implications of this discovery are far-reaching and potentially catastrophic. We must act swiftly and decisively to address this threat before it spirals out of control. A tall, imposing figure in the back of the chamber rose, drawing all eyes to the Krylonian representative, Jackson. His deep, rumbling voice cut through the silence. What do you propose, Tyloth? Surely we cannot simply ignore this human problem. Their very existence poses a risk to the stability we have worked so hard to maintain. Tyloth nodded gravely. Indeed, Jackson. The Council has deliberated extensively, and we have reached a consensus on the appropriate course of action. He paused, his eyes scanning the faces of the assembled representatives. We must make contact with these humans, establish a dialogue, and determine the extent of their capabilities and their intentions. Only then can we decide how best to proceed. And if they prove to be a threat, another voice interjected, this one belonging to the Arcturian delegate, Sixtra. What then? Shall we simply invite them to join our hallowed ranks, or will we be forced to eliminate them? The chamber erupted into a cacophony of discussion as the representatives debated the merits and risks of each potential course of action. Tyloth raised his hands, struggling to restore order. Calm yourselves, my fellow counselors. We must approach this situation with the utmost caution and diplomacy. The humans, for all their apparent martial prowess, are still a young and relatively primitive species. Perhaps, with the right guidance, they can be brought into the fold of our galactic civilization. Jackson's deep rumble cut through the din once more. And if they refuse? If they prove to be as stubborn and unyielding as your reports suggest? What then, Tyloth? Can we afford to have such a volatile element in our midst? Tyloth's eyes narrowed, and a hint of steel crept into his voice. Then, my friend, we shall do what is necessary to preserve the delicate balance that has sustained our way of life for millennia. The humans, for all their potential, cannot be allowed to jeopardize the peace we have worked so hard to maintain. The chamber fell silent, save for the hum of the holographic display, as the representatives contemplated the gravity of the situation. The fate of the galaxy, it seemed, hung in the balance. The sleek, silver vessel of the Galactic Council's diplomatic envoy glided silently through the void of space, its advanced engines propelling it with effortless grace. As it approached the small blue-green planet known as Earth, the tension aboard the ship was palpable. At the helm, Commander Xelnora, a seasoned Arcturian diplomat, gazed out at the alien world with a mixture of curiosity and trepidation. This would be the first official contact between the Galactic Council and the human species, and the stakes could not be higher. "Begin final approach and prepare for landing," Xelnora commanded, her voice betraying a rare hint of uncertainty. "Remember, we are here to establish diplomatic relations, not to provoke hostilities. Tread carefully, all of you." The diplomatic team, a diverse group of representatives from various council member worlds, nodded in acknowledgement. They knew the importance of this mission and the need to approach the humans with caution and diplomacy. As the vessel descended through the Earth's atmosphere, they caught glimpses of the planet's surface, sprawling cities, vast oceans, and towering mountain ranges. It was a world teeming with life, yet still largely unfamiliar to the seasoned galactic travelers. The craft touched down in a remote, unpopulated area, away from the prying eyes of the human population. A ramp extended from the vessel's side, and the diplomatic team emerged, their flowing robes and intricate headpieces marking them as representatives of the Galactic Council. Waiting for them on the ground was a contingent of human military personnel, led by a formidable-looking woman in military fatigues. Her piercing gaze swept over the alien envoys, sizing them up with a practiced eye. "I am Colonel Sarah Chen, representing the United States of America," she announced, her voice steady and authoritative. "You are on American soil, and I will not tolerate any hostile actions or attempts to interfere with our sovereign territory." Xelnora stepped forward, raising a placating hand. "We mean you no harm, Colonel Chen. We are representatives of the Galactic Council, and we have come in peace to establish diplomatic relations with your people." Sarah Chen's expression remained impassive, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Diplomatic relations, you say? And what exactly does the Galactic Council want from us?" "We simply wish to learn more about your species and your world," Xelnora replied, choosing her words carefully. "Your people have come to our attention, and we believe there is much we can learn from one another." Sarah Chen scoffed, a hint of derision creeping into her voice. "Learn from us, huh? Last time I checked, your Galactic Council was the one with the advanced technology and the supposed monopoly on interstellar travel. What could a bunch of primitive Earthlings possibly have to offer you?" The Arcturian diplomat's brow furrowed, and she struggled to maintain her diplomatic composure. "I assure you, Colonel Chen, we mean no offense. We simply wish to open a dialogue and explore the possibilities of cooperation." "Cooperation, huh?" Sarah Chen's lips curled into a sardonic smile. "That sounds an awful lot like you want us to join your little club." "Well, let me be clear. The United States doesn't take orders from anyone, least of all a bunch of aliens who think they run the galaxy." Xelnora felt a twinge of unease. This was not going as smoothly as she had hoped. The humans' defiant attitude was unexpected, and it was clear that they would not be easily swayed. "Perhaps we could discuss this further," she ventured, in a more formal setting where— "There's nothing to discuss," Sarah Chen interrupted, her tone brooking no argument. "You've got 5 minutes to get back in your ship and leave our planet. After that, I can't guarantee your safety." The Arcturian diplomat's eyes widened in alarm, and she quickly glanced at her team, who were already beginning to retreat towards the vessel. Xelnora knew they could not afford to antagonize these humans, not when the stakes were so high. "Very well, Colonel Chen," she said, her voice tinged with reluctance. "We will withdraw for now, but I assure you, this is not the last you have heard from the Galactic Council." As the diplomatic team hastily boarded the ship, Sarah Chen watched with a grim expression. She knew that this was only the beginning of a confrontation that would have profound consequences for the entire planet. The failure of the initial diplomatic overture to the humans had sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council. Zelnor's report of the tense encounter with Colonel Sarah Chen and her unwavering defiance had left the council members deeply unsettled. In the aftermath, the council convened a closed-door session to determine the best course of action. After much heated debate, they'd reached a consensus. They would make another attempt at establishing diplomatic relations, this time sending their most seasoned negotiators to the table. The delegation that arrived on Earth's shores was an impressive sight. Led by Zareth, a seasoned Venusian diplomat with a reputation for tenacity and shrewd bargaining, the team exuded an air of confidence and authority. As the alien envoys disembarked from their sleek spacecraft, they were greeted once again by the formidable presence of Colonel Chen and her military entourage. This time, however, the American commander was accompanied by a diverse group of human representatives, including diplomats, scientists, and political advisors. Zareth stepped forward, extending a three-fingered hand in a gesture of goodwill. "Greetings, Colonel Chen. I am Zareth of the Galactic Council. We are here to continue the dialogue we began earlier and to explore the possibility of establishing formal diplomatic relations between our peoples." Sarah Chen eyed the alien diplomat warily, her expression unreadable. "So you've decided to try again, have you? Well, I hope you're prepared for a more robust discussion this time." Zareth inclined his head slightly. "Indeed, Colonel. The Galactic Council recognizes the unique challenges presented by your species, and we are committed to finding a mutually beneficial solution." The negotiations that followed were a delicate dance of diplomacy, with both sides carefully maneuvering for advantage. Zareth and his team presented the humans with a detailed proposal, outlining the potential benefits of joining the Galactic Council's network of affiliated worlds. They spoke of the opportunity to access advanced technologies, to participate in interstellar trade and commerce, and to have a voice in the decisions that shape the galaxy. In return, they asked for the humans to agree to certain terms, including the integration of their world into the Council's sphere of influence and the sharing of their planet's resources. Sarah Chen and her team listened intently, their expressions stoic and their questions probing. It was clear that the Americans were not going to be easily swayed by the Council's overtures. "So let me get this straight," Sarah said, her tone laced with skepticism. "You want us to hand over control of our planet, our resources, and our technology, all in exchange for a seat at your table?" Zareth nodded, the tentacles on his head shifting slightly. "In essence, yes. The Galactic Council believes that the integration of your world and your people into our established order would be mutually beneficial. We can offer you protection, resources, and the opportunity to participate in the greater community of species across the galaxy." Sarah let out a humorless laugh. "Protection, huh? Forgive me if I don't find that particularly enticing. Last time I checked, your protection involved showing up on our doorstep and demanding that we bend the knee." The human negotiators around her murmured in agreement, their expressions mirroring Sarah's defiant stance. Zareth raised a hand, his tone placating. "I understand your concerns, Colonel Chen. But I assure you, the Galactic Council has no desire to subjugate your people. We simply seek a mutually beneficial partnership, one that would allow your species to flourish alongside our own." Sarah's gaze narrowed, and she leaned forward, her eyes boring into the alien diplomat. "And what if we say no? What happens then?" Zareth hesitated, his expression betraying a hint of discomfort. I'm afraid I cannot speculate on such a scenario, Colonel. Our goal is to reach an agreement that satisfies both our peoples." "Well, let me be clear," Sarah said, her voice hardening. "The United States will not surrender its sovereignty, nor will we hand over our resources and technology to any outside power alien or otherwise. If that's your idea of a mutually beneficial partnership, then you can take your offer and shove it." The human negotiators erupted into a chorus of agreement, their voices rising in defiance. Zareth and his team exchanged uneasy glances, realizing that their carefully crafted proposal had been resoundingly rejected. As the tension in the air thickened, Sarah Chen fixed the alien diplomat with a steely gaze. "You've got 24 hours to get your people off our planet. After that, all bets are off." Zareth nodded slowly, his expression grim. "Very well, Colonel Chen. We will withdraw and report back to the Galactic Council. But I can assure you, this is not the last you will hear from us." With that, the alien delegation turned and retreated back to their spacecraft, leaving the human negotiators to ponder the implications of their encounter and the looming prospect of a confrontation that could shake the very foundations of the galaxy. The Galactic Council's diplomatic team returned from Earth to a tense and uneasy atmosphere within the Grand Council chambers. Thyloth, the presiding officer, listened grimly as Zareth recounted the details of their failed negotiations with the human representatives. "They are a stubborn and defiant species, Thyloth," Zareth reported, his tentacles twitching with frustration. "Colonel Chen and her team made it clear that they have no intention of submitting to our terms or joining the Galactic Council's network of affiliated worlds." A murmur of concern swept through the assembled delegates, and Thyloth raised a hand to restore order. "This is a most troubling development, Zareth. If the humans refuse to cooperate, it could have dire consequences for the delicate balance we have worked so hard to maintain." Jackson, the imposing Krylonian representative, spoke up, his deep voice resonating through the chamber. "Then we must take decisive action to neutralize this threat before it escalates. The Galactic Council cannot afford to have such a volatile element in our midst." Sixthra, the Arcturian delegate, shook her head gravely. "That may be a hasty conclusion, Jackson. These humans, while clearly belligerent, are also a primitive species. Perhaps with the right approach, we can still bring them into the fold." Thyloth raised a hand, silencing the debate. "Regardless of our individual views, we must first understand the true scope of this human problem before we can determine the appropriate course of action. To that end, I propose we dispatch a team of our finest scientists and military analysts to conduct a comprehensive evaluation of the humans and their capabilities." The assembled delegates murmured in agreement, recognizing the wisdom in Thyloth's proposal. If they were to confront this new challenge, they needed to understand their adversary thoroughly. Within a matter of days, a specialized team, handpicked from the Galactic Council's most distinguished institutions, set out for Earth, their mission to gather as much intelligence as possible about the enigmatic human species. As the team's advanced scout vessels blanketed the planet, their sensors and probes collected a wealth of data, ranging from human technology and infrastructure to military capabilities and social structures. The analysts pored over the information, their eyes widening with each new revelation. "The humans are far more advanced than we had anticipated," one of the lead scientists, a Venusian named Calthrix, reported during a live video conference with the Galactic Council. "Their tools and weapons, while primitive compared to our own, exhibit an impressive level of ingenuity and resourcefulness." Calthrix gestured to a series of holographic displays, showcasing various human technological achievements. "They have harnessed the power of fossil fuels, developed sophisticated modes of transportation, and even begun to explore the boundless expanse of their own planetary system." Jackson, the Krylonian, leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "But are they a threat to us? What of their military capabilities?" Calthrix nodded solemnly. "That is where the situation becomes most concerning, Counselor Jackson. Our observations have revealed that the humans possess a remarkable aptitude for warfare, one that far exceeds their current level of technological development." The scientists' fingers danced across a control panel, and the holographic displays shifted to depict scenes of human combat. Grainy footage showed human soldiers engaged in fierce battles, their movements swift and their tactics adaptable. They display a level of tactical acumen, creativity, and sheer tenacity that is deeply unsettling, Calthrix continued, his voice tinged with unease. Their ability to overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles and prevail against more technologically advanced foes is truly remarkable. Psylof's brow furrowed, and he leaned forward, his gaze intense. Then what you are telling us, Calthrix, is that these humans pose a genuine threat to the Galactic Council's dominance. The Venusian scientist nodded grimly. I'm afraid that is precisely the conclusion we have reached, Xyloth. The humans, for all their primitiveness, possess a warrior spirit and an adaptability that could prove extremely disruptive to the balance of power in our galaxy. A heavy silence fell over the council chamber as the delegates grappled with the implications of this startling revelation. The fate of the Galactic Council's carefully maintained order now hung in the balance, threatened by the unexpected emergence of a new and formidable player on the galactic stage. The revelations from the Galactic Council's investigative team had sent shockwaves through the august body, shattering the complacency that had settled over the delegates in the wake of their failed diplomatic overtures to the humans. As Calthrix's report on the humans' remarkable capabilities echoed through the Grand Council chamber, the once composed representatives erupted into a cacophony of debate and discussion. Jackson, the imposing Krylonian, was the first to voice his concerns. This is precisely what I feared, Psyloth, he rumbled, his deep baritone cutting through the din. These humans, with their primitive yet formidable abilities, pose a clear and present danger to the stability of our galactic order. The Arcturian delegate, Sixthra, shook her head vehemently. You speak too hastily, Jackson. While the humans may have some unsettling traits, we cannot simply dismiss them as a threat to be eliminated. Perhaps with the right approach, we can still bring them into the fold of the Galactic Council. Psyloth raised a hand, silencing the debate. Both of you raise valid points, and this is precisely the dilemma we now face. The humans, by all accounts, are a young and volatile species, yet they possess attributes that could make them a valuable asset, or a devastating liability, to our galactic community. The Venusian representative, Calthrix, cleared his throat, drawing all eyes to him. If I may, esteemed counselors, the data we have gathered paints a concerning picture. The humans' warrior spirit, their adaptability, and their creative problem-solving abilities could make them a formidable adversary, should they choose to oppose the Galactic Council. Jackson nodded grimly. Precisely my point. We cannot afford to have such a wild card in our midst. The stability we have worked so hard to maintain could be shattered by the mere presence of these humans. Sixthra countered, her tone adamant. But we have not yet exhausted all diplomatic avenues. Perhaps if we approach them with greater understanding, if we offer them a genuine partnership rather than simply demanding their submission, we may yet find a way to integrate them peacefully. The debate raged on, with the council members divided over the appropriate course of action. Some argued for immediate action to neutralize the human threat, while others advocated for a more cautious, diplomatic approach. Xyloth listened intently, weighing the merits of each argument. As the presiding officer, the weight of this decision rested squarely on his shoulders, and he knew that the fate of the Galactic Council, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. Finally, after hours of heated discussion, Psyloth raised a hand, silencing the chamber. Esteemed counselors, I believe we have reached a decision. All eyes turned to the Venusian representative, who met their gaze with a steady, resolute expression. We will make one final attempt at diplomacy, Psyloth announced, his voice firm. We will dispatch our most skilled negotiators to the humans, bearing a renewed offer of alliance and cooperation. But he paused, his eyes sweeping across the assembled delegates. If the humans refuse to accept our terms, then we shall have no choice but to take the necessary steps to ensure the continued stability and security of the Galactic Council. A hush fell over the chamber as the delegates grappled with the gravity of Xyloth's words. The prospect of a confrontation with the humans was a deeply unsettling one. for they knew that the consequences could be catastrophic. Jackson rose from his seat, his massive frame casting a looming shadow over the others. "And what precisely do you mean by the necessary steps, Xyloth?" he rumbled, his eyes narrowing. Xyloth met the Krylonian's gaze unflinchingly. "If the humans prove to be an unacceptable risk to our way of life, then we must be prepared to take decisive action to eliminate that threat, by any means necessary." The chamber erupted into a chorus of murmurs and protests, but Xyloth raised a hand, silencing them once more. "I do not make this decision lightly, my fellow counselors," he said, his voice tinged with a rare hint of regret. "But the stakes are too high, and the future of the Galactic Council is at stake. We must be willing to do what is necessary to preserve the delicate balance that has sustained us for centuries." As the debate continued, the gravity of the situation weighed heavily on the minds of the assembled delegates. The fate of the galaxy now hung in the balance, and the decision they made would have far-reaching consequences that none of them could have anticipated. The Galactic Council's decision to make one final diplomatic overture to the humans was not taken lightly. Xyloth and the other delegates knew that the stakes could not be higher, for the future of the Galactic Council's dominance in the galaxy hung in the balance. This time, the Council had dispatched its most seasoned and skilled negotiators, led by the indomitable Zareth, to engage the human representatives. The alien delegation arrived on Earth with a renewed sense of purpose, their sights set on securing an alliance that would bring the humans firmly under the Council's influence. As the Galactic Council's envoy touched down in a remote location, they were once again greeted by Colonel Sarah Chen and her team of human representatives. The tension in the air was palpable, a stark contrast to the polite formalities that had characterized the previous encounter. Zareth stepped forward, his tentacles shifting with a subtle hint of nervousness. "Greetings, Colonel Chen. I am Zareth of the Galactic Council. We are here to present you with a revised offer of alliance, one that I believe will be more suitable to your interests." Sarah Chen's expression remained impassive, her piercing gaze scanning the alien delegation. "An alliance, you say? The last time you were here, you seemed more interested in demanding our submission than offering any kind of partnership." Zareth raised a placating hand. "I understand your skepticism, Colonel, and I apologize for the abrasiveness of our previous approach. The Galactic Council has taken the time to carefully consider your concerns and to craft an offer that we believe will be more palatable to your people." The alien diplomat gestured to the members of his team, who stepped forward, carrying a series of holographic displays and technological artifacts. "We are prepared to share with you advanced technologies that could greatly benefit your world. Technologies for clean energy, sustainable agriculture, and improved medical care, to name a few." Sarah Chen's brow furrowed, and she crossed her arms over her chest. "And what do you expect in return? More of the same. Our resources, our sovereignty, our allegiance to your so-called Galactic Council." Zareth shook his head slowly. "Not at all, Colonel. This time, we are offering a true partnership, one where your people would have a voice in the decisions that shape the future of the galaxy. We would ask only that you share in the responsibility of maintaining peace and stability, and that you allow us to integrate your world into our network of affiliated planets." The human representatives exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of skepticism and cautious interest. Sarah Chen remained unmoved, her stance rigid and her eyes narrowed. "And what happens if we refuse your offer of alliance?" she asked, her tone sharp. Zareth hesitated, the tentacles on his head twitching slightly. I do not believe it would be in your best interests to refuse, Colonel. The Galactic Council has the resources and the influence to ensure the security and prosperity of your world, but we would prefer to achieve that through cooperative means rather than confrontation." Sarah Chen let out a humorless laugh. "So, in other words, you'll leave us alone as long as we play by your rules. And if we don't, you'll what? Send in your fleet to ensure our security." The human negotiators murmured in agreement, their expressions hardening. Zareth felt a bead of sweat forming on his brow, the weight of the Council's expectations bearing down on him. "Colonel Chen, I assure you, the Galactic Council has no desire for confrontation," he said, his voice tinged with desperation. "We simply wish to bring your people into the fold, to share in the prosperity and stability that we have worked so hard to maintain." Sarah Chen's gaze was unwavering, her posture radiating defiance. "Well, let me be clear, Zareth. The United States of America has no intention of joining your Galactic Council or submitting to your demands. We are a sovereign nation, and we will not sacrifice our independence, our resources, or our way of life, no matter what kind of alliance you offer." The human negotiators erupted in a chorus of agreement, their voices rising in a show of solidarity. Zareth's eyes widened, and he realized that his carefully crafted proposal had been met with the same steadfast rejection as the previous one. As the tension in the air grew palpable, Sarah Chen fixed the alien diplomat with a cold, unyielding stare. "You've got 24 hours to get off our planet. After that, all bets are off." Zareth opened his mouth to protest, but the resolve in Sarah Chen's eyes left him no choice. Defeated, he nodded slowly, his expression grim. "Very well, Colonel Chen. We will withdraw and report back to the Galactic Council." He paused, a hint of resignation in his voice. "But I assure you, this is not the last you have heard from us." With that, the alien delegation retreated to their spacecraft, leaving the human representatives to ponder the implications of their refusal and the looming prospect of a confrontation that could forever alter the course of the galaxy. The failure of the Galactic Council's second diplomatic mission to Earth had sent shockwaves through the august body, shattering the fragile consensus that had been reached after their initial deliberations. Psyloth and the other council members were now faced with a daunting dilemma: how to proceed in the face of the humans' unwavering defiance. Zareth, the seasoned negotiator who had led the most recent talks, stood before the council, his expression grim. "The humans have made it abundantly clear, esteemed counselors, that they have no intention of accepting our offer of alliance. Colonel Chen and her team were steadfast in their rejection, and they have given us an ultimatum to remove ourselves from their planet within 24 hours. The chamber erupted into a cacophony of debate, with the delegates exchanging heated arguments and recriminations. Jackson, the imposing Krylonian, rose from his seat, his deep voice cutting through the din. "Then we have no choice but to take decisive action against these humans," he rumbled, his eyes narrowing. "They pose a clear and present threat to the stability of the Galactic Council, and we cannot allow them to continue defying us." Sixthra, the Arcturian delegate, shook her head vehemently. "You speak too hastily, Jackson. These humans, for all their belligerence, are still a primitive species. Perhaps with more time and a more nuanced approach, we can still bring them into the fold without resorting to violence." Psyloth raised a hand, calling for order. "Enough, my fellow counselors. We must consider all the implications of our actions, for the fate of the entire galaxy hangs in the balance." He turned his gaze to Zareth, his expression grave. "Tell us, what is the status of our military forces? Are we prepared to confront the humans should they refuse to yield to our demands?" Zareth's tentacles twitched nervously. "Our military assets are substantial, Psyloth, but I must caution against any hasty action. The reports from our analysts indicate that the humans, while technologically inferior, possess a remarkable aptitude for warfare and an unparalleled adaptability. Any direct confrontation could be unpredictable, to say the least." Jackson let out a derisive snort. "Unpredictable. These are primitive beings, Zareth, with no understanding of the true power of the Galactic Council. We should crush them swiftly and decisively, before they can pose a greater threat to our way of life." Psyloth's brow furrowed, and he fixed the Krylonian with a stern gaze. "That is precisely the kind of reckless thinking that could lead us down a path of catastrophic consequences, Jackson. We must weigh our options carefully, for the stakes have never been higher." The chamber fell silent, as the assembled delegates grappled with the gravity of the situation. Xyloth could feel the weight of their expectations bearing down on him, and he knew that the decision he made would reverberate throughout the galaxy for generations to come. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Xyloth rose from his seat, his expression resolute. "We will make one final attempt to negotiate with the humans," he announced, his voice carrying a rare edge of authority. "Zareth, you and your team will return to Earth, bearing a new offer, one that they cannot refuse." The Krylonian delegate's eyes widened, and he opened his mouth to protest, but Xyloth raised a hand, silencing him. "If they refuse our terms, however," the Venusian continued, "then we shall have no choice but to take decisive action to ensure the continued security and stability of the Galactic Council." Jackson's lips curled into a grim smile, and he nodded in approval. Sixthra, on the other hand, looked deeply troubled, her expression a mix of concern and resignation. "I hope you know what you are doing, Xyloth," she murmured, her voice barely audible. Xyloth met her gaze unflinchingly. "I am well aware of the risks, Sixthra, but the fate of our entire way of life hangs in the balance. We must be willing to do whatever it takes to preserve the delicate balance that has sustained us for centuries." With that, the Galactic Council's delegation once again set out for Earth, carrying with them a new offer and a dire ultimatum that would test the limits of the humans' resolve. As the Galactic Council's diplomatic team returned to Earth, bearing a renewed offer of alliance and a dire ultimatum, the human representatives, led by Colonel Sarah Chen, braced themselves for the impending confrontation. The news of the Council's hardline stance had quickly spread through the highest levels of the U.S. government, sparking a flurry of activity and a sense of renewed determination. It was clear that the humans were now facing a pivotal moment, one that would test the limits of their resilience and their willingness to defend their sovereignty. In the hallowed halls of the Pentagon, generals and military strategists huddled over maps and tactical simulations, devising plans to counter the potential threat posed by the advanced alien civilization. Sarah Chen, her brow furrowed in concentration, was at the forefront of these discussions, her keen intellect and unwavering resolve proving invaluable. "Gentlemen, we're facing a scenario we've never encountered before," she said, her voice tinged with a rare note of uncertainty. "These Galactic Council aliens have technology that far surpasses our own, and they're not afraid to use it to get what they want." One of the generals, a seasoned combat veteran, leaned forward, his expression grim. "Then we'll have to find a way to level the playing field, Colonel. Our best chance at survival is to outthink and outmaneuver them, using our own ingenuity and resourcefulness." Sarah nodded, a hint of a smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "That's exactly what I was thinking. We may not have their advanced weapons or spacecraft, but we have something more valuable: the will to fight for our freedom, no matter the cost." As the military strategists continued to fine-tune their plans, a parallel effort was underway in the realm of science and technology. Across the country, the brightest minds in engineering, computer science, and materials research were mobilized, tasked with the daunting challenge of accelerating the development of cutting-edge capabilities that could give the humans an edge against their alien adversaries. In the halls of MIT, a team of young, ambitious researchers worked around the clock, their fingers flying across keyboards as they pushed the boundaries of what was possible. Guided by the steady hand of Professor Emilian Nguyen, a renowned expert in advanced materials, they delved into the mysteries of exotic alloys, high-energy lasers, and next-generation propulsion systems. "We don't have the luxury of time," Nguyen said, her voice tinged with a sense of urgency. "The Galactic Council is coming, and we need to be ready. Every day, every hour we can buy ourselves could make the difference between victory and defeat." Her team nodded in agreement, their eyes burning with determination. They knew that the fate of their planet hung in the balance, and they were willing to push the limits of their ingenuity to ensure its survival. As the countdown to the Galactic Council's ultimatum ticked away, a palpable sense of tension and anticipation gripped the human population. News of the impending confrontation spread like wildfire, igniting a surge of patriotism and a fierce resolve to defend their home against the alien invaders. In the streets of major cities, crowds gathered, waving flags and chanting slogans of defiance. Political leaders, sensing the mood of the populace, rallied their constituents, promising to do whatever it took to protect the sovereignty of the United States and the rest of the world. "We will not surrender to these aliens," the president declared in a televised address, his voice ringing with conviction. "We are the people of Earth, and we will stand united against any threat that seeks to undermine our freedom and our way of life." The words echoed across the globe, inspiring a wave of solidarity and determination that transcended national borders. Suddenly, the humans were no longer a disparate collection of nations, but a single cohesive force, united in their unwavering commitment to defend their home against the Galactic Council's advances. As the clock ticked down, Sarah Chen and her team of military and scientific advisors worked tirelessly, pouring every ounce of their collective genius and resourcefulness into preparing for the impending confrontation. They knew that the stakes had never been higher, and they were determined to prove to the Galactic Council that the humans were a force to be reckoned with. The stage was now set for a clash of civilizations, a battle that would determine the fate of not just the Earth, but the entire galaxy. The humans, once dismissed as a primitive and insignificant species, now stood at the precipice of a momentous showdown, their future, and the future of all humanity, hanging in the balance.